Brothers and sisters, I don't know what it is. Each time that I began to do this subject, each time that I began to do this subject on the Illuminati, each time that my live stream has been severed, it's been cut off. Initially, I tried to do the story last night, initially. And each time that I began the story, then my communication to you have been cut off, have been totally cut off. So I don't know what's going on with that. It's very strange, but nonetheless, I pay attention to it because I know that in this hour that we're in today, nobody's concerned about truth. No one's concerned about truth. So we've got to be concerned about truth. We have to be familiar with what's going on today, what's happening for us. And brothers and sisters, we're in a very difficult time. The time we're in is very difficult. And it is a time that won't endure sound doctrine. You and I are in a time that will not endure sound doctrine. You and we're in a time today where the truth is something that's less desired. Men have itching ears for what they want to hear, but the truth that we should hear today, you and I can't find anyone, right? When we say anyone, we mean not many, right, that are concerned with truth, is concerned with the disposition that we're in today as Black people. And so it is apparent for you and I, and it is conducive for you and I to be in these conditions that we're in, to be under this oppression that we're in, because it benefits the state of a governing nature of the oppressor. And we have the oppressors, brothers and sisters, in many areas of our lives. We have oppression. We have oppression. And because we have it, we should be concerned about how the machine of oppression works. And I hope I'm not losing anyone, because today we're talking about the Illuminati and what it is and what it isn't. So we began to talk about it last night. We began to talk about the Illuminati last night, and we couldn't get it off, right? We couldn't get anything off as we desired to talk about it, and there's a reason for that, I'm sure. I think the main reason that we couldn't get anything off in talking about the Illuminati is that I believe it's becoming very much apparent that the organization exists. Not that it doesn't exist or has never existed, or not that none of us or any of us have sustained any value for the existence of Illuminati. But I think in the fact that we have recognized its existence, we have not been able to pinpoint, you and I have not been able to pinpoint any relevance of its existence in our immediate society. When we talk about it as a benign organization that we can't see. And today, brothers and sisters, I intend to show you its existence and tie it in with racial oppression. That it is a system that desires to control us, control our information that we put out, and is in place controlling entertainment, levels of success, monetarily, sociologically, religiously, and otherwise in our lives. And in certain areas of our vocation, our careers, whatever it may be, how many of us, unbeknownst to us, are tying in to this organization and making the organization a powerful reality. And I think that I always make this claim to you, brothers and sisters, that as time continues and as we disassociate ourselves with the system of oppression, you will soon see the powers behind the governing machines coming out to seek support and funding from a new liberated society. And I say that for a reason, because America as we know it is falling. The system of oppression in America and England as we know it is falling. We just had the death of Queen Elizabeth. Just had her death. And that is a changing of the guard and a new mindset. A new mindset. Now we know that King Charles of England, and we have to talk about it. We've got to talk about it. There's no way around it. We know that King Charles of England, whose mother was Queen Elizabeth, has a different mindset as it relates to oppression. Excuse me, brothers and sisters. And we have to understand that oppression is a global term for a Western global power structure. We're going to tie all that in together. We're going to tie that in together. Ruling monarchs is an elevated class of the oppression system. Excuse me again. And when you say kingdoms and you say corporations, you're talking on different levels. This is different as apples and oranges. The texture of a kingdom and the texture of a corporation and the texture of an organization are totally different. And we're going to talk about that. But I aim to show you, brothers and sisters, that you're not only seeing the Illuminati and knowing where it comes from, but even in your local walk of life, wherever you may live, you're seeing people that are ruling class of this empire of oppression through the Western global power structure. And those that play a part in the Western global power structure are playing a part in the Illuminati. And I intend to prove that to you today. This is not a benign group in the sense that you and I don't know the local players, don't know the state players, we don't know the national players nor international players. We know the players, but have not been able to tie them to these organizations. Well, many of them are appearing before us every day. Queen Elizabeth is just one of those people, just one. In America, we have every ruling president that are chairman and executive officers for the Illuminati. Chairman and executive officers. Politicians. You can't get into politics without being approved. The people may elect you, but you're also selected. And that's a big difference. For those of you, that believe in the voting powers, right? Democracy has a voting power. You may use it as a power of election, but the powers behind the voting, powers behind this nation and other nations will accept your nomination as a form of their selection process for those that will serve in their electoral process, in their form of government to keep you oppressed. If you start a movement of any movement of oppressed people, you have to understand this. You have to understand that the system that was put in place to keep you in place. And that system was organized by men, women, families that desired to keep you in their control. That desire to keep you in their control. And this control is rewarded to all of those who play a major part in keeping the organization intact. You have to understand that. This is why, excuse me, brothers and sisters, among black wealth, there's a great gulf in the recognition of black wealth as it relates to white wealth. When you say black common wealth, then you're talking about common to the system of capitalism that is running in America, that agrees with the system of capitalism that is running in America, that agrees with the government that is running America. And this form of wealth, this commonwealth through the black boule, not going to rock the boat, so to speak. So, there are 9 questions about the Illuminati. We'll just talk about it very quickly. 9 questions. And you should know these 9 questions about the Illuminati that many people are afraid to ask. We're going to talk about these very quickly. We'll talk about it, and after which, brothers and sisters, we'll begin to talk about the Bavarian Illuminati and the secret society that is operated from original operation was from 1776 to 1785. This was the original organization, the forming of the original organization. And from that period, we could see the players and the organizations, the elites, those among the elite that supported this society, and they continue to support this society. But I want to be able to give you a full understanding. We need it. We need a full understanding, brothers and sisters. We got to have a full understanding, because many of us have a partial understanding of truth. And we've got to have a full understanding, even though we live in a period where men and women are not enduring sound doctrine or enduring truth, right? They're running toward every wind in doctrine, but they're not enduring truth. And this understanding of the Illuminati, brothers and sisters, we have to know it. We have to know it. This is important for us today. It's important that we begin to have an understanding of this organization, what it really is, and what it means. Because I think we have a misunderstanding of what it means, what being a part of the Illuminati means. Excuse me very much. And so this Bavarian Illuminati, right, because that was the name of it, from Bavaria, operated only for a decade, 1776 to 1785. The organization was founded by a man named Adam Weishaupt, or they call it Weishaupt. But it was started by him. He was a German law professor who believed strongly in the Enlightenment ideas. We're going to talk about this directly, because we're going to apply it to what's happening to us today, because it does exactly exist. It certainly exists, definitely exists, and to show you how it's working against oppressed people and working for the system of oppression. This German law professor, Adam Weishaupt, believes strongly in these Enlightenment ideas, right? And his Illuminati or Illuminorum, right, sought to promote the ideas among the elites, right, to not create an elite class, because they had an elite class, but to put them on all on the same sheet of music as it relates to controlling the world, right, in different areas, through mutual understanding and mutual benefits from those that were governed, the oppressed, you and I. And so he wanted to promote these ideas toward the elite: total control, total rule over other people. You see, troop means total rule over other people. And we're going to talk about that, because they used to have a tennis shoe in the 80s, 90s that was called Troop. And for that reason, we had an amazing rapper, LL Cool J, in those days, that used to wear Troop. He stopped wearing them. When he found out what it meant, he stopped wearing them. He started putting out that knowledge. But they slowly began to change him. And if you look, he became one of the Diamondbacks of the transformed rappers into actors. and it put him in an elite category, a very elite category. So he's become, in so many instances, untouched, untouchable, unreachable, unapproachable for the common public. Wasn't that way in the beginning, but that's the way that it is now. And so this is one of the moves. See, it's one of the moves. We're going to talk about Tamika Mallory and all of them, all of pawns in the game of the Black Boule, which is an integral part of the Illuminati movement, right? Integral part. So Weishaupt wanted to educate Illuminati members in reasons of philanthropy and other secular values so that they could influence political decisions when they came to power. And this is important. So you should know this. And I want to put the right information out to you. Now, you had 6 to 9 ambitious guys. They really wanted to take over the world. And you have to understand that, because when you talk about the Illuminati, there's this one writer, Chris Hodap, or Hodap, however you want to say it. He wrote a book, The Conspiracy Theories and Secret Societies for Dummies, with a lady named Alice Von Cannon. I also wanted, and you need to get that book. If you don't have it, you can definitely get it. But it doesn't, it whets the appetite of the reader, but it doesn't go deep, really doesn't do anything to point out in particular directions, people, organizations, communities, or secret societies. It doesn't go to point in particular people in our present day that are involved. But what it does is it talks about the conspiracy theories and secret societies for dummies, right? So you could go to a bookstore and get it, right? But it doesn't really point out any real information. However, it is good reading so that you can get a foundation of what's going on. I've done my research that I'm putting out before you. The Illuminati's goals and reputations often exceed their means, right? Right? The goals and reputations, right? They're carried on from us, right? In the earlier days, the group was just a handful of people that decided we're going to take over the world. We're going to influence the government. We're going to have a massive benefit, right? Massive benefits from these goals of our objective. Remember, the objective is to take over the world. And we're going to be the benefactors. If we're at the top, we'll be the benefactors of everyone below us. So in the early days, it was just a handful of people. Even at the largest concept, that was somewhere between 650 or maybe 2,500 people at that time in the inception of this idea that were involved in this group. The group grew to this size by becoming a sort of sleeper cell within other groups, or they would spread themselves out and plug themselves in the right place. If it was politics, the judicial system, the legislative system, electoral process, they would spread themselves out. And when they spread themselves out, they had certain goals, and they would finance these groups, these leaders, these people, and sort of become advisors in the sense that they were financing them to promote their goals. So you have to understand that the part of the promotion deal. Now, the members join Freemason lodges. Now, these are not. I don't want you to mix that up with Prince Hall, because Prince Hall is an organization that will fight against this to establish the powerful black people. Establish powerful black people. And there's a difference when you talk about total control or total rule over other people, right? Under the system of oppression. Because remember, 1776 in America, in England, this was the colonial powers, right? And those among the colonial powers that were trying to usurp powers amid slave organizations, right? Slave corporations, right? That were benefiting from selling of human beings, human trafficking. And because that was the major money for Europe, I don't care where you go, oppression through capitalism is the major money for the white man. It doesn't matter where he is, what country you're talking about. All over the planet, the darker skinned people are oppressed by the whites unless they're talking about black nationalism and black commonwealth through black nationalism to grab this for themselves. You have to understand that. That's very, very important. So when you say the Freemason movement, just understand that this belongs to white people. When you say Scottish rights, that belongs to the whites, and the charters are not legitimate. The charters are not legitimate, and I'm not going to go too deeply into that because I don't want to confuse anyone. But understand, if it's from the white man, it's against you. Now, when you talk about Prince Hall, this is a black charter. And we're going to talk about Prince Hall so you can have a knowledge of who he was. Why is he so important in black nationalism? Why is he so important in the black movement? You can't put him over in the movement of whites. You can't attach him to the Illuminati because this is something that he fought against. He fought to establish black people. And we have to understand that. You have to understand that this is still a class struggle that was built against you. That any kind of teaching of the Illuminati is a teaching of oppression, right? And anyone that support this philosophy of troop rule, total rule over other people, is someone who is supporting the system of oppression. Are there blacks that support the system of oppression as it is, both wealthy, educationally, and otherwise? Yes. You have to understand that. And this is the boule. This is the boule, the black boule. In other words, these are the house slaves of those black people that have given themselves over to this total rule. So you have black people that will sell out, if I could use that term, or buy in to the system of oppression. And when we're talking about the Illuminati, make no mistake, brothers and sisters, we're talking about a system of white oppression. And it doesn't matter if that comes from the Jews or not. We're talking about a system of white oppression. You have to understand that. You have to understand that it has to be white oppression because you and I, of black people, are oppressed. We are oppressed. And I want you to understand, peace and greetings, Brother M. Peace and greetings. And I want you to understand that if you are funding the system of oppression, then you'll never come out of it. You have to understand that. If you're funding it, you'll never come out of it. Now, what are the benefits of supporting a system of oppression for the oppressed? You don't have any real benefits. You don't have any real benefits. The only real benefit you have is that that system that is oppressing you will fund you at one point or another. When they fund you, that money or those positions come with certain demands that you have to follow. And it doesn't matter. Eventually, you will pay for it, finding a system that oppresses you. And it doesn't matter what those demands are, you will fulfill them if you're to have any life, even if it means taking the life of someone else. I'm just telling you, when you sell out, you're buying in to the system of oppression. Now, let's talk about this guy, Weishaupt. Let's talk about him, Weishaupt, Adam Weishaupt, because you should know this is the founder of the Illuminati. A lot of people don't know about the founder of the Illuminati. They don't know about the Brovarian. It was Brovarian. They don't know, and you're talking about this is coming from owners. They don't know that this man was a professor who taught his teachings of enlightenment. When we talk about enlightenment, right? When we talk about enlightenment, what do we mean? Right? What do we mean? There's a good term for enlightenment, and then there's a I hesitate to say demonic term or evil term. But this is early modern history that we're talking about, brothers and sisters. So it's good that we get an understanding. It's good that we get an understanding. The act of enlightenment, or the state of being enlightened, right? Knowledge, right? Intellectual power, intellectual movement. And the question is, when we get this movement, what is it for? What is it for? When we are enlightening, right, or we are in the process or state of being enlightened, what are we being enlightened for? What are you sending me knowledge for? Right? The light is knowledge, brothers and sisters. You can have good knowledge or bad knowledge, right? You could have conducive knowledge, or you could have an oppressive knowledge, right? And we have to understand where the knowledge is coming from. And we figure out where the knowledge is coming from, then we can understand what the objective is, because you have to know it. You have to be able to, as didn't Jesus said, judge a tree by the fruit that it bears, right? Isn't that right? You have to be able to judge it. You have to be able to judge it. So the European intellectual movement of the late 17th and 18th centuries, right, was emphasizing reasons and individualism rather than tradition. They were trying to get some power. They were under a ruling class, right? Under a ruling class of kingdoms, corporations, right? They were making money. The cash crop was you and I, black people. They were making money from us. And it was so much money for free labor. We're producing these things. They're selling. You don't have to buy. If you own slaves, let me explain this, because there's still slaves today. You and I are still 21st century slaves. Our parents were 20th century slaves. Our grandparents were 19th, 20th century slaves, and so on and so forth. I want you to understand that if a subject people are producing something and they are the property of owners, whatever they produce on that plantation, the owner of the plantation gets it free of charge. Free of charge. Today they have patents, and they can buy your patent. It's the same thing. The same thing. To own or buy a patent is the same thing. To be able to promote, to sell ideas for a patent is the very same thing. You create something and the government controls it. This is still a system of oppression that is funded by money. I can buy something from you, right? That's still a form of power. Me exercising power over you. I will give you a certain amount of money, right, for what you have, but you don't have any control, right? You don't have any control over what you created. You don't have any control because it's purchasable, or it can be bought from the highest bidder. And if you don't sell it, then you can't market it. You can't market it because you don't control the system that market things. If you went into Walmart, right, and you're buying a product, you're not necessarily buying a product that Walmart owns, but Walmart is basically a consignment store, brothers and sisters. It's a consignment store. It has the power to regulate anything that somebody else is selling. If Martha Stewart has Tupperware in Walmart and the Tupperware doesn't sell, then Martha Stewart owes Walmart a fee for the products that weren't selling. She is paying them regardless, whether she make a sale or not. Walmart is capitalizing, right? It's capitalization. Walmart is capitalizing off a consignment that belongs to Martha Stewart. Walmart's going to get paid either way. You have to understand that. You have to understand that. Stores are consignments because they control products. The plantation, back to our original argument, is a consignment of human beings. They're going to make money whether the human being make money or not, because he's going to have to pay taxes. He's going to have to pay for products. He's going to have to pay to live in this society. I want you to understand that. And when you start looking at it that way, then you can understand why you should be an independent business, why you should be concerned about independence as black people. This is the reason why. So you'll be able to control your own destiny. Right now, you can't do it. Can't do it right now. You've never been doing it. And there have never been black leaders that the man has not had in front of you that haven't been controlled by him. Anyone that he can't control, he kills. You have to understand that. So this is a European intellectual movement of the late 17th and 18th century, brothers and sisters, was emphasizing control. It was emphasizing being in control, emphasizing the reason for individualism rather than tradition, right? Because the traditions of capitalization wasn't working for them. So they had to create a system of commonwealth for themselves. Commonwealth, something that, an objective that they all could agree on, and a situation where they all could benefit, right? And once you have these organizations and groups, right, and those that were part of the Illuminati would get into these areas to finance the groups, right, or to offer advice where they're benefiting both ways. The advice that they're giving, they're being paid for, and they're sponsoring the group, right, with monies that the group may need, whatever that group is. It could be a religious group. It could be a political group. It could be a social group. It could be a judicial group, legislative, right? Where the representatives and senators would represent, right, the interests of the ruling powers as it relates to the American government. I'm just trying to tell you. I hope I'm not busting anybody's bubble. If you thought that you had rights, and you thought that your vote mattered, brothers and sisters, it's too late in the game for you and I to be thinking that foolishly. Like we have the right to vote and that our vote matters. It doesn't matter. That's the reason why today they're still fighting for voting rights. When you've been given the right to vote, right of a citizen, right? You've been given that in under the Emancipation. But what I intend to show you is that the Emancipation wasn't worth the paper that it was written on, and that the amendments are not worth the paper that they're written on. The fact of the matter is that you don't have to amend something in order to get freedom or justice or equality for people who should already be citizens. You have to understand that. But we were not brought here to be equal with whites. We weren't brought here to benefit from the organizations under the Illuminati or the organizations that support the system of the Illuminati. We weren't brought here for that. We were brought here as slaves to work in the labor market. And we are the chief leaders in the labor market. You and I, as black people, if we work in the labor market, we are the chief leaders in the labor market. The work and all of that depends on us, right? If we don't work, then the man can't receive the benefits of our labor, right? If we don't work, he can't receive it. If we don't contribute to his system, then he can't benefit from the system of oppression. You have to understand that. You got to understand it. And when you understand that, you understand the black nationalist movement, right? Because it's a movement of black people getting power for themselves, who refuse to be governed, who will question those powers, right? Who will rise up against the powers to gain true freedom, true justice, true equality, right? And true religion, right? And spirituality on their own terms. And you have to understand that. On their own terms. You and I, brothers and sisters, have to have an understanding, have to have an appreciation, right, of what's going on and how we can use it for ourselves. The white man is using it for himself. You and I have got to find out a reason to use it for ourselves. And we should have been operating. We're no longer under this bondage. The 600 years of oppression have passed. There's a change in the environment, brothers and sisters, and God himself and God alone has already organized our trek to the promised land, right? God has organized that, right? And so in the faith, religiously, socially, and otherwise, culturally and otherwise, you and I have already already been made free. All we have to do is walk into that freedom and stop supporting this system of oppression. This Illuminati movement was heavily influenced in the 17th century. Philosophers such as Descartes, right, the same people that affect the Constitution of the United States, Locke, Newton, and prominent exponents like Immanuel Kant, Goethe, Voltaire, Rousseau, and Adam Smith. These are names of people, right? Philosophers of the Enlightened movement. Those that agreed. You also have George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Quincy Adams. You see what I'm saying? John Adams, right? These are presidents, right? Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton, who was never a president, right? Right? So we have to, another one named Adam Burr. We have to have understanding of what's going on. Brothers and sisters, that's what you and I have to have. We got to have understanding of what's going on. And when we get some understanding of what's going on, then we'll understand why these names are used. You know, we'll understand why these leaders for that day operated the way that they did. And we're going to talk about Hamilton, and we're going to talk about Jefferson too. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. Talk about James Monroe. Talk about the Monrovia, which is the capital of Liberia, a place that was supposed to be set aside for black people to liberate us, right, from slavery, right, from President James Monroe. We got to talk about that. Talk about that. Here, how a man that oppressed us and formed in the system that governed in the system of oppression would purchase some land in Africa that he had to kill people for, annihilate black people for, your and my brothers and sisters, our blood, our ancestors, and take over that area and establish it as a place for free slaves, right? And to send certain black leaders over there that were going to appeal to this idea, appeal to the idea of a Western global power structure as it relates to liberation and freedom. See, because the same thing is happening today. So when you go to Liberia, you have to understand that James Monroe, right, which the capital of Liberia is Monrovia, named after that president, James Monroe, was his extension of post-colonialism, post-slavery colonialism, I have to say that, and the move that they were making to control Africa in a different form, in a different form, to become an integral part of Africa as relates to funding, right? And a satellite where other Africans can get in touch with America for aid, and by receiving aid, which is money again, right? This currency that promotes the illumination or the Illuminati or that promotes the Enlightenment. That's why it has the pyramid on the back of the dollar with an eye. That's why it has the pyramid on the back of the dollar with an eye, right? The Enlightenment, the Illuminati, the Enlightenment, and by pushing that currency, that country begins to depend on America, and the worth of that currency, right, is to that country, and the operation of it is the signature for the controlling ruling class of that country or that state, right, that have adhered, so to speak, or submitted themselves to the currency of that ruling power. So wherever the American dollar, in plain, wherever the American dollar is being spent, wherever the American dollar or the ideology of America or even the American industries are set up, then at that point, that place becomes somewhat of a satellite for America. It becomes eyes for America. America has ears on the ground, so to speak, and can explain what's going on there, how they could benefit right, from this government, this society, and how the currency could be injected as uses into this this government, wherever it may be, Africa, Asia, or otherwise, so that they can control a form of wealth, not just control it, but to dictate also a form of wealth in their society. When the people depend on it and they use it, then they get a chance to govern the labor of that society, the electoral process of that society, and otherwise. And this is the importance. This is why it's so important for America to get democracy over into those areas. You see America going over to Saudi Arabia. You see America going over into different parts of Africa, different parts of Asia, different parts of India, different parts of Japan, right? Different parts of South America, different parts, wherever they may be. You see them going there and they can control the electoral process. Or, and once they fund the electoral process, they can control it, control the leaders of that process. And at some point or another, if the leader's not doing what they say, then they say the leader is in violation. They begin to talk about how he's violating the policies that have been set up in those countries. Whose policies? Right? The policies that are benefiting this Enlightenment movement, or is benefiting the influence of the Illuminati, right? And the benefits of the Illuminati over into that part of the world, right? So they are there, brothers and sisters, and the integers, or the gear, right, have been set up right in front of us and are running right in front of us, right? The entire time are running right there in front of us. All you have to do is pay attention to the process of government from a local, state, national, and international level, and you're seeing people working for the Illuminati for you the entire time. In America and England is a system of oppression that was organized by the white man and organized by other white governments to control darker people around the world. And you are seeing the players, anyone that are locally supporting this idea, from ministers to politicians, presidents on up, kingdoms on down. You're seeing it. When Queen Elizabeth died, she just died, right? When she died, they had to quickly, and it's already organized, a successor is already organized, right? To take the throne. Her son Charles takes the throne. Charles has a brother named Andrew. So Charles moves up in power, Andrew moves up in power. So they'll gain the benefits of that leadership, gain the benefits of that position, which is sovereignty, right? Total rule over other people, a sovereignty. And this system of monarchy is a sovereignty that is put in place and has existed, right, off the back of the labor unions, black and white. And then above in that system of labor and ownership, the black people have been under triple oppression from that system, in the sense they didn't have freedom, didn't have justice, didn't have democracy, and I dare to say, in the sense of that, don't even have their own religion that is natural to their culture, right? So you're under triple oppression under that system, right? The basic governing systems from wherever you are today, your local government, state, federal, whoever the ruling class is a part of this enlightenment. It was nothing more than the teaching of eugenics, brothers and sisters, a system of superiority. That's why when you hear them say, well, Jay-Z, he's part of the Illuminati. He may be a player. He may be a player or a pawn in the Illuminati, but you can't be black and be a part of the Illuminati. It doesn't work like that. Even if you have a white blood in you, like there's some. I told you we was going to talk about John Adams and James Monroe, which we touched on a little bit, and Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson raped Sally Hemings, 9 years of age. He was also raping her mother at the same time. And we learned this from Sister Ava Muhammad when she was teaching, right? Right? A lot of you all learned it from Sister Ava Muhammad. Well, those of us that know that Jefferson, President Thomas Jefferson was a rapist of young black children, a pedophile. They didn't call it that then, but that's what it was. He was raping the mother of Sally Hemings since she was a child, and produced babies with both, and took Sally Hemings with him, right, as a sexual toy, sexual pleasure to France. He produced children from her and over 200 other slaves, but he was more so in love with Sally Hemings. You have to know this, something that you have to know. Even the children that were produced, right, mixed children, we say that, mixed or hybrids or mixed children from the slave, right, that he impregnated. And these children that came out of it are part of the ruling class in the sense that they have Jefferson's blood, but they're still black. They're just wealthy. I hate to say it. The ruling class see them as wealthy niggers because they have blood. It's the blood of Thomas Jefferson that makes them wealthy. Understand that. But even their wealth is not on the scale of white wealth, right? It's not even on the scale of it's above the scale of black wealth in the sense that the bloodline traces directly to one of the members that were involved, right, in fine-tuning this system of oppression. That's Thomas Jefferson. But even though they have his blood, they're still looked upon as niggas. They're higher than us. They're higher than us. But nonetheless, when the dust settles, they're still niggas. This is the way that the wealthy whites look at them too. Well, they're swarthy, they're black, they're niggas, right? You got the master's blood, but you're still the same. It's no different. You see, mixed people are nothing more than tools that the white man can use. And a carrot dangler, dangle them in front of you and give them the treats and trinkets to keep you in line. To tell you if you want this, you'll do the same thing. All of these are players, and you get black people that have the bloodline of this ruling class. What are you saying? You're saying that this boule, right? We're going to explain that these are black people that play in the boule, right? They're playing into the power structure, and they know it because it's the only way that they're going to benefit. When you had a house slave, if I can explain it that way, and if he cleaned the house, right, he cooked in the house and he lived in the house, he's going to take care of the house. This is his benefit. If he take care of the house, he ain't got to be out in the field. You understand? So you have to understand that the black man will never gain wealthy, even if it's a wealthy field slave, right? He ends up owning a part of the land on the plantation where he was born. He'll still never get in the house because his bloodline, right, and his history is always enough to tell the white man that the minute that he get into any site or source of power, that he's going to turn on or do to that ruling class the same thing they've been doing to him. Even if they get him into the areas of power and decide to let him in, they still have the fear that someday he would turn on them. And they're not wrong for it. They're not wrong for it because when the time comes and you and I get power, then we're going to sustain and hold on to that power. We're going to do anything to keep it. Anything to keep it, because we've been taught by these Europeans and this American white man that we can't trust them, and we're not even safe. We're not safe at any moment. We can't trust them, and we're certainly not safe. So we have to understand that. You and I, brothers and sisters, are not safe. We're not safe, and we won't be safe until we create safety for ourselves. And that's the reason why that we have to have full knowledge of the Illuminati, who it is and how it works, so we'll know how to maneuver around it. You have to understand that black nationalism is the only way that we're going to get out. When I say black nationalism, it has a FUBU mentality. For us and by us. FUBU mentality. For us and by us. That we are creating something for ourselves. That we govern and we control. That we govern and we control. And that we will be the chief benefactors of that. And when you have, and that's my contention today, that you'll never have any power until you have some control for yourself. If you have a black city, a black state, right, a black nation, then you can benefit from everything that happens in that black city, black state, black nation, because every gain that you have in that place is one that you've created. But you'll never get any real gain in the system of capitalism because it's something that the white man created for white people. You have to create something for black people. You have to learn to support black people and what black people are doing. You get a black store in a black community, you support that black store, then you, with the money that is coming from the black community, that black store owner is able to increase, right, his position, right, within that city. Because it's a game of chess. It's a game of chess. He was a pawn, but now he's a knight. He's able to hold, right, not a knight, but a rook. Not a white rook, but a black rook. And he's able to hold that position, right, as a supplier. Isn't that right? They're able to hold that position. And when you get a lending institution in that place, now you have a chance to operate as a bank in that place. See? So you gotta use your head, your mind, know what's going on. When black people had black businesses, we had more of a say-so over what we did. When we had protests, we could protest, right, white stores because we had black stores to go to, right? You can't protest Walmart today if you don't have a black store to go to. They could treat you any way they want. And I use Walmart as an example because it's the clearest example that everybody knows about. You can't, if you don't own it, you don't control it, brothers and sisters, right? Then you can't benefit from it, right? But you don't benefit from Walmart. Walmart has benefited from your dollars so much until they have their own bank. They have their own bank. They have everything, all from your dollars. When Walmart started out, it was a little barn operation. You look at it now. Look at it now. It's a mega operation. Why? Because you contributed to it. You worked in it. You contributed to it, but it's not something that you own. You have to understand that. And this is to poor whites and poor blacks. Even poor whites are better off in the system than wealthy blacks are better off in this system. Why? Because it was built for white people. It was built for white people. It was built by white people. So you have to understand that. It was built for and by them. You did the work. You made Cotton King through your labor, right? Because you were brought here. Why? You were brought here to be a leader in the labor market. You were brought here to support the system of capitalism. You were brought here to support the Illuminati organization as it relates to America. But you were not brought here to become a part of this organization, to benefit from the organization or anything like that. And that is the reason why you and I are catching hell and have not received any reparations for it. You know, are still slaves, brothers and sisters, just 21st century slave as opposed to the 20th century slave. You have to understand that, but we're still slaves. Now, we talk about the Black Boule movement. This is another reason why you and I have got to get busy. But before we talk about that, let's talk about this Adam Weishaupt. He was born in 1748 to 1830. And in between that time, he put in some work. He's the founder of the Illuminati. Now, I'm just going to talk just briefly with you about it because there's no sense in me going real deep. But I just want to go deep enough for you to get some understanding of what and who the Illuminati is. And what their purpose is, has always been, excuse me, and why they have the power that they have today. The Illuminati, plural of Latin Illuminatus, right? Illuminatus, or to be enlightened. We just talked about that. And they're doing it. They did it through the education system. It's very key. Through the learning system, right? From a baby up, the points are put in place. From a baby up, all the points are put in place to govern you. You have to understand that. Everything is put in place. And religion is the biggest. Brothers and sisters, religion is the biggest integer of the Illuminati movement. The biggest one. You have to understand that. Now, this Illuminati has several given names. And there are several groups. Many of them real. Some of them fictitious because, you know, how many people know this? You know some people that if they don't know anything, they'll start making it up. So you have to understand that. Those that don't know will start making it up. So you got a fictitious part of the Illuminati movement, then you got a real part of the Illuminati movement. Now we're gonna talk about both. But I want to say foundationally, that historically, brothers and sisters, the name usually refers to the Bavarian Illuminati movement, and that's Germany. It comes from Germany. This Adam Weishaupt comes from Germany, and there is known as the Enlightenment, right, or the secret society, founded May 1st, 1776. When did you get your independence, right, as a country? Right, July 1st, 1776. So once you just understand this, how all this is working together, right? While before the American governments or the English anywhere were talking about independence, right? The global organization, Germany was one of them, right? And those that were the elite of these global organizations that are white were talking about this Bavarian Illuminati movement. We're going to, right, control, right, at the top level, the new power and currency that these governments are going to be getting from their institution of slavery. You have to understand that in 1397 to 1492, the Europeans had stopped fighting one another, and they were organizing, right, their kingdoms, organizing their troops, organizing expeditions to be able to control darker skinned people, to be able to control, govern, manipulate, colonialize darker skinned people, because the darker skinned people could teach them about science, could teach them about religion, could teach them about natural mineral, teach them about natural mineral wealth, could plant and reap, right? So they're able to feed them. The European couldn't do it for themselves. They were practicing cannibalism and all other things, right? To control, they would fight wars just so they could control the vegetation of those other countries. If we control them, they'll have to work for us and we can eat. Well, they were killing themselves out, and they looked and said, look at Africa. Look at all the other places where the Africans have been. They have the technology of plant science. They can feed themselves. They can plant. They can raise cattle. They can do all of these things. They can do all of these things. And you have to understand that, because this is very important to understand from the perception that you've never needed the white man, never needed him. He's needed you, and he needs you today to keep his stuff going, to keep his organizations going, to keep his machine going. This is not a mistake that you're brought into these electoral processes and are suppressed and oppressed, right? To give you little levels, crumbs of liberation, right? Or perceived liberation, because you don't have it. You're still a slave. Because he needs you. He can't make it. He can't eat without you. He learned plant science and planting from you, right? He's only learned these things. He's been farming for the last 70 to 90 years successfully. And within that time, he's destroyed the land. He's destroyed plant science because he's creating this GMO, right? So you don't have the understanding of plant life or taking from the earth and giving back. The reason why that you would even populate or rejuvenate the soil with products that are not going to take too much away from it. You have to understand this. He don't have any understanding of that. He's a baby of creation, but he desires to control and rule you and I, right? He desired to control and rule you and I for two reasons. He needs us to survive. Without us, he won't survive. Secondly, he has been spoiled by us submitting to his power, and he'll do anything to keep it, right? Because he already knows that if he don't have it, again, he's not going to survive. These are the two reasons. But in May of 1776 in Bavaria, right, which is a part of Germany, the goal of the Illuminati, right, was obscurantism, was to be concealed, right, was to be concealed, and to oppose superstition, right, to have religious influence over the public, and to abuse state power, right? Why would he want to do that? Why would he want to do that, brothers and sisters? Because of religion is what I told you before. Religion has an influence over people. I don't care what religion it is. It puts people in a state of mind, right? Puts them in a state of mind where they are fluid almost, right? It's like you could take, if they were water, you could pour them into the glass and they take the shape of the glass. Mentally, they were able to shape them from a spiritual standpoint, in the sense that they submit themselves to these religious teachings, right? And so they would take these religious leaders and give them or manipulate or influence their sermons through money to be able to manipulate the people, get them to do whatever they want. Just like that water, you pour it in the glass, take the shape of the glass. Whatever you pour it on, it'll take the shape of whatever you pour it on. You pour it on the floor, it'll just spread out. It's going to take the shape of whatever you put it in or pour it on. And the order of the day, they wrote in their general statutes, is to put an end to the machinations and the purveyors of injustice. This is what they said, right? This is what they said. But the whole purpose was to control them, right, without dominating them, right? So we'll put an end to the mechanisms and purveyors of injustice, right, on the surface. But the real desire of the Illuminati is to control individuals without dominating them. You look at this theory of socialism, the new move that they're making in democracy. You look at the new moves that they're being made in politics. They're fighting amongst themselves even. Look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump has a movement now of what's called the Trump Republican. The Trump Republican. Before Trump, you had McCarthyism. It's nothing new. The Democratic Party is doing it through liberation. And here's the thing. In both of these battles, black people that are part of those organizations and those that are not are oppressed under these powers. Proof of which, look at the LGBT movement, which is run by whites at the very, very top. Gloria Steinem, one of the main people of the liberation movement, one of the main supporters of the lesbian movement, main supporter of the LGBT. It's where it all started, this women's right, coming out of the civil rights movement, which was nothing more than a sexual revolution to push men and women toward these extremities of the LGBTQ now. That's all it was. Because if you look at the civil rights movement, black people still don't have rights. And these organizations that are white, from America on down, from what it means to be an American on down, black people still are not American. Black people still don't have civil rights. Black people still don't have human rights under these organizations. The only way that you're going to get it is that you create it yourself. It's the only way. Other than that, you won't get it. And so the Illuminati, along with the white Freemason movement, I have to say that because the blacks are not recognized as Freemasons unless they're under Prince Hall, right? But they're not recognized as Scottish rights, right? You have to be recognized as York right, which is under Prince Hall. And that's because he's a black founder of this movement to bring equality and control for black people. You have to understand that. So as black Masons, you're out of your mind. Going to a Scottish rites, you're out of your mind. Going as a free and accepted Mason under the white charter and jurisdiction, which is totally illegitimate. And I'll just say that. And I won't say anything else toward that. So with the Illuminati, along with the white Freemasons and other white secret societies, were outlawed through an edict. A guy named Charles Theodore, which was the elector of he was an elector of Bavaria. Now this prince elector, that's what he was. Charles Theodore reigned as prince elector in Count Palatine from 1742. Look at the date. 1742, Duke of Jülich, the Berg, and also in 1742 as Prince Elector of the Duke of Bavaria. So ruling class. Remember, the Illuminati sought to overcome these classes, and they said they were going to do it so that they could be able to push justice for all people. It's not the truth. This is another source of power. They're fighting amongst themselves. The monarchs are fighting amongst the republics. When I say a republic, there's Democratic or Republican. You go in the House of Lords, the House of Commons. There's a representation of the monarch. There's a representation of a type of liberation, wealthy people, right? Or liberation wealthy groups. And these groups, brothers and sisters, are fighting for power amongst one another. And you have blacks that are integral in these groups, and we don't get any power, don't even have any say-so, right? Our job is to be workers, right? Or assist them in making their groups powerful. Okay. In 1777, Charles Theodore ironically dies. It's suspicious death, right? He was a member of the House of Palatine. This is a ruling class, a branch of the House of the Wittelsbach, right, which is the German ruling class, the German monarch. The monarch is fighting to keep his power, and you have wealthy people outside of the monarch that are a threat, that are fighting to take them down. You heard of, you had John Locke and Thomas Hobbes, the law of common sense in the book Writing of the Leviathan. One said, we need to support the king, right, because he was from the ruling class. The other one said, no, we need to talk about pure freedom. Both classes had money, brothers and sisters, and all of them coming from the same people. All of them coming from the same people. But because they could not be powerful in their ruling class, these are royals that said, well, if we can't be powerful in the ruling class, we'll fight against it, right? Until you give us that power. You don't get it, we'll take the power. And they're fighting against one another. They're continuing to fight against one another. You see Iran and Iraq, they're fighting against one another. You see the Jews and you see the Arabs, white Jews and white Arabs are fighting against one another, right? They're fighting for what? Control. For what? Power. That's what they're doing. If you're black, you're not a part of that fight. You're not a part of that fight if you're black. You have to understand that. White man is not going to give you the power that he has, and his group is not going to do it. When I say white man, I'm not talking about the poor whites that don't have any power. I'm not even talking about the middle class. They don't have any real power. I'm talking about the commonwealth among the what they call the middle class whites. The middle class whites. They have some commonwealth control. Those that own the states, those that own properties, own the businesses that allow them to buy up properties, right? They have the money power and have tangible ruling power on the lowest level to the highest level. This is the people that you're talking about. These are the people that you're talking about. You're not talking about people that live within the city, but those that live without the city that still have power. You have cities and you have townships. Those that are in the townships are those that rule the town, right? Those that have commonwealth, own land, they own the business, they own the banking in those areas. They can make decisions in those areas that will affect the city. And they sign these things. They're not the mayors. They're not the commissioners of those local areas. No, they're the people that the mayors and the commissioners are representing when they come into power. The interests of those that are being represented that are in power. That's what the mayors and the commissioners and representatives on the high level, senators and presidents are representing the interests of the ruling class, whether they be monarch or whether they be a liberated white liberation movement class that are fighting and usurping for power every day of their lives. So when they talk about George Soros, here's a man wealthier than kings and queens, isn't that right? And a Jew who is funding black organizations who are working or lobbying to increase this idea or to reinstate this idea of democracy on the understanding or the terms of the white ruling class, right? Black Lives Matter, a key component, were working for that. They say Black Lives Matter, but you got more whites in the organization of Black Lives Matter. Any movement that is integrated with white and black people would never be for the interests of black people. Never be. The only organizations that are the interests of black people are organizations that are black owned. When you look at the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when you look at the Muslim movement, for the first time, and you look at the Black Christian movement, and you look at the Black Christian nationalist movement, all of these movements supported black businesses. E.C. Morris was part of the Black Christian nationalist movement. They had black business, right? With the exception of everything else, it was very successful. The only thing that wasn't successful is when they start trying to run for public office as it relates to the system of democracy, which was created and penciled in place to keep black people oppressed. You'll see then he began to fall. The Elaine race riot and the killing of black people in government earlier on in this reconstruction of the Old South after the emancipation that black people was supposed to be free was a major mistake. Major mistake for them to get involved in the white government. This is the government that oppress your people. What happened when the black man got involved in that government? The white man said, prove yourself. He took the house slave and moved them from the physical house and put them in the state house. He put them in the White House. Isn't that right? You know I'm right. You know I'm right. And what was their job? To oppress black people. When you put a black person in charge of a white business, he's worse on you than the white man is, right? When you were on the plantation and the white man wanted to keep you in place, he was afraid of somebody rising up against him because they got tired of that cracker, right? That's the one that was whipping you. That's where the term cracker come from. He was the white man that was whipping you, and we call him the cracker, right? And today, that's why you call him the cracker, because he's whipping you so hard. But when he would, the white man would change it up. He's not going to lose his plantation. So he put some black person in front of you, put him in charge. He made you feel that you have right on his plantation. All the plantation owners were playing the same game. They were all playing the same game, and you and I were in the same bag. If somebody black in front of you, it made you feel like you had some rights. He even gave you money to make you feel you had money on the plantation. Yeah, you did. You had money on the plantation. You went to his schools on the plantation. He did, and build whatever would make that plantation successful. The same way they're doing cities today. Plantation was nothing more than cities of that time, right? They had a ruling class. The slave owner was a ruling class of the slave plantation, right? That's where the monies came from. There were different levels, right? And America as a colonial government, ruling monarch, right, or dictatorship, which is America, had to fight a ruling liberated class that had made their wealth on the backs of the same people that the country needed to keep its substance. Isn't that right? So what happened, brothers and sisters? When he put somebody black in charge, they were worse on you than the white man was. It was heavier on you than the white man could ever be on you. And he didn't give you any room to breathe. He was breathing down your neck every time you turn around to make sure that his master's will, understand that, his master's will was being kept to every letter. And so you have to understand that. So there's a fight amongst ruling class. You and I won't ever benefit from it. And the only time they put us in position is to keep their power, right? And to stop or slow down what's eventually going to happen. You can't stop it. He's slowing it down. Because if you look, all you got to do is look around the world today and you'll see that black brothers and sisters are rising up. They're even killing police and all of that. They're not taking it anymore. If you look, the society has changed. The demographics has changed. They got to put some other black people in charge now that can fool you again. The same way that they put the other ones in charge that have been fooling you all this time. Many of them have been around for 80 and 90 years, right? Been around the whole time. The whole time they've been around, posing as black leaders, right? Have never been a threat of the black government. And all you got to do is look, because when they put these people in charge, and the minute you see them sitting there with white people inside of the organization, then you already know. You already know. No, we can't trust them. So any movement of black movement, quote unquote black movement, that has white people in it, you can never trust it. You can trust a black movement, but you can't trust a white movement. And I've just explained to you why. Because the Illuminati movement goes from the lowest level to the highest level, and it's still built on your backs. Still built on your back. There's no legitimate black person with any power in the Illuminati movement. They may be a pawn in the movement to manipulate you and I, but they'll never have any real power. And you have to understand that, because it was a power created by whites for whites. And the lowest, mangiest, stinkiest, wrinkle pants white man is better than the most wealthy, organized, and achieved black man. You have to understand that. That's the system that we're under. The global Western power structure. That's the system that we're under. So we'll get back on the precipice in 1784, 1785, and 1787 and 1790. Right? It was the encouragement. At that time was the encouragement of the Catholic Church. All of this came from Charles Theodore, the Elector of Bavaria. So he was using religion the whole time, right? So what is the fighting class going to do? They're going to use religion. So on both ends, you got religion. Both ends. The Anglican Church was created for power. Henry VIII created the Anglican Church for power of England, so he wouldn't have to be obedient to the Catholics, right? The Catholic Church was in charge a long time. It is a ruling monarch, a religious ruling monarch that controls people, right? And where is it? It's all around the world, and it still controls people. You have to understand that. During the subsequent years of the Illuminati, they were vilified by the conservative and religious critics who claimed that the Illuminati continued underground and were responsible for the French Revolution. So this takeover, all of these takeovers, right? We can't be the ruling class, right? And we're still royals, but we're not part of the ruling class. We have money, right? But we want some say-so. So we'll create these rise-ups. It won't be real, right? Because they're fighting against their own brothers, but they're saying, look, all you got to do is give us a little bit of power. That's all you got to do. And we're going to keep the same thing going. We're going to use capitalism. We're going to keep the black man down. Don't worry about that. We just want some power. When they can't get it, they're going to cause trouble. You look at the French Revolution, you see it. You look at the Haitian Revolution, you see it, right? Because the minute that the Haitians won the war, they could have had their own independence right then. But they have been already Europeanized, right? So the Europeans, what did they do? They brought money. That's what they do. They brought money and say, hey, we're going to give you this money. We're going to support you. And they supported each of them to fight against one another, right? And it ended up where Toussaint Louverture was killed. John Baptiste was also killed. So Dessalines was left with power, right? Dessalines was left with power. So what did they make him? A ruling monarch. Who did the ruling monarch pay homage to? He paid homage to France, right? What did he have? Total rule of all the people in Haiti. You got to understand that. Did he have any real power? No. Was he a satellite? Yes. You look at Ukraine. Just want you to understand what's going on. You're fighting a war, getting involved with a war here. Not you in particular, but the country of America. Ukraine is in Russia. Why is America concerned about Ukraine? America is concerned about Ukraine because they've invested too much money and too much technology in Ukraine to keep an eye on Russia and what Russia is doing. Right? Right? And you got to be able to see that. You got to ask yourself the question, why are we concerned about Ukraine? They get all of these distractions. Brittany Griner is the best distraction they got in front of us now. And they've used her, who Vladimir Putin gave a job, right? Told her, if you're going to be a citizen of Russia, you can't be bringing this cannabis and stuff in it. Our country is against these drugs. She brought in drugs. Instead of America saying, hey, you're guilty of bringing in drugs, what do? To keep black people snowed. To keep us keep the wool over our eye, right? They act as if she's being mistreated. She broke laws, bringing cannabis and cannabis products in Russia, selling them to athletes and others, which makes her a drug dealer over there in Russia. Is that right? If you deal drugs in America, quote unquote say they don't have tolerance for it, right? Even though they have the Drug Enforcement Agency. That's another discussion for another time. But if you violate the drug laws in America, what happens? Violate the local laws in America with drugs, what happens? You're arrested. You're put in jail. It's no different with Brittany Griner. But they want to use it to keep the black people snowed. We don't have anything to do with Russia. If Russia and Ukraine want to fight, let them fight and take each other out. It has nothing to do with anybody black. If America want to jump in that, let them jump in it. It has nothing to do with anyone black. Now, if you want to save the lives of other Russians over there, and you're American, right? You're a white American. It's America that got Ukraine in it. It's America that put the satellites in Ukraine. It's America that put businesses and gave Western wealth to Ukraine for the sake of keeping an eye on Vladimir Putin. And brothers and sisters, that's between the white man and the white man. It has nothing to do with the black man, and you and I won't benefit one way or the other. We have nothing to do with it. But the white man will trick you into believing that he's concerned about democracy when Russia has nothing to do with America. We don't benefit from Ukraine becoming a place of wealth, a place of power. We don't benefit from that. The white man in America that set up their businesses benefit from that, but we don't benefit from it, right? It's like Donald Trump setting up Trump Towers in China. He'll benefit from that. He benefits from it because the Chinese have to pay him. So in that sense, he has tangible power. He has a commonwealth among these people, commonwealth amongst the monarch of China and the ruling class. We don't have any power like that. We won't make any money from that move. Donald Trump will. And whatever move the wealthy make, they will benefit from it. We won't benefit from that. They will. We have to start thinking about ourselves and don't be so quick to get caught up in the white man's movement. We have to be concerned about ourselves. And brothers and sisters, religion is used to control black people, right? They move you from traditional African religion, right? Remove you from it to put you in a form of their religion that they had grabbed from Africa, which is Christianity, and the other spiritual systems associated with Christianity, and Christianity that is associated with the African form of Islam and Amharic as it relates to Ethiopia. The white man took it, saw what you were doing when he integrated you and invaded you over 300,000 years ago from the caves of Europe through the portal of Malta to come to Carthage, which is present-day Liberia. The white man called it Carthage. And he learned these things from you all over the northern parts of Africa and then continued to go all the way throughout Africa learning. And the first thing he did when he got in there, once he learned that you are very religious people, that you are very spiritual people, first thing he does, first thing he's ever done when he invaded your countries was to set in a church. Once he set in a church, he set in the process of integration, right? And he does it through sexual orientation. And he created what they have now called the white African by sleeping with the black African and then splicing himself, right? Once they created somebody white and you have enough white people, then they begin to mate with one another, right? With the philosophy of eugenics, they taught, right? And they produce with one another to keep the bloodline, to increase the white bloodline, right? And all the darker children made by white people, they killed them. The lighter children, they kept them. The white children, they employed them as rulers, right? The whiter, the better. The more blonde, the better. The more blue-eyed, the better. And they used this philosophy to take over your countries, even in America. America wasn't the country it is today. America as a country, established country, right, is a part of Africa. It's the second Africa, then you have the third Africa, which is South America, right? The other areas around the continent with Afro-Asiatic areas, right? You have to understand that the white man doesn't discover these places. He go and take them over, and he take them over with religion, integration, and sexual orientation. He takes them over, right? He don't have any religious concept and no convictions. Proof of which you have the LGBTQ movement, who's running religion now. They've become the leading organization to run religion and to distort our understanding of religious practice as it relates in America, and totally object to anything that is against their teaching, right? So you have to understand that many of the influential intellectuals and progressive politicians counted themselves as members of the Illuminati movement then, and they count themselves as members of the Illuminati movement today. You have to understand that. And the diplomat Franz Xaver von, who was the order's second in command. This is after Adam Weishaupt had died, because he died in 1830. He died. But when this second order in command is yielded, it attracted literary men such as Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, right? You know who that is, right? For those historians, Goethe was a German poet and playwright, a novelist, a scientist, a statesman, a theater director, and a critic. His works about aesthetic criticism, brothers and sisters, right? So he became a voice for the movement, the Illuminati movement, right? He talked about liberation, and when the Illuminati, they're not a part of the, they come from the royal class, but they're not a ruling part of the monarch royal class. So they have to, with money, with wealth and influence, have to influence individuals that would otherwise be fighting for independence, fighting for their own nationalism, such as black people. That's why the civil rights movement wasn't a success. It was no success because of who was running it. The white people were running it. Whites were running the civil rights movement, so it couldn't be a success for us. Civil rights supports the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of the United States doesn't support black people. It's the document that oppressed black people. You have to understand that. You and I are not citizens and benefactors of democracy. We're benefactors of hypocrisy. We're not free citizens. We're slaves. And the only difference between us and the slave of the earlier colonial period of America and around the world is the fact that we're in the 21st century. It's the only difference. Other than that, there's no difference. So you got John Gottfried Herder. Who was that? John Gottfried Herder was, listen to this, another philosopher, another theologian, religious man, another poet, another critic, literary critic. He's associated with what? The Enlightenment movement, Sturm and Durang and the Weiner classicism. Now, Strom Thurmond, right? Strom Thurmond, when he's named, the one that talked about segregation tomorrow, segregation now, segregation forever, was named from this idea of Johann Gottfried Herder, according to the history of Strom Thurmond. This kind of thinking. In other words, his family was already involved. And you also had the reigning duke, who didn't have any power. Understand this, didn't have any power as it relates to the monarch class, but he was what? Was a duke. He was recognized as a royal, the Duke of Gotha, right? Was one of the Saxon duchies, right? The Dutch, right? The Dutch. He was held by the Ernestine branch of the dynasty of Wedden, and the former, what they call Landgraviate of Thuringia, or the ruler of Thuringia. The what they call a ducal resident of erected at Gotha. Now, I want you to understand, and which he himself is also Jewish. Weimar is a German Jewish. So you begin to see that here are the people that are in power, right? Who come from the royal class. They come from the people who have total rule over other people, but they themselves want to have this ruling power themselves. You have in Britain the House of Commons and the House of Lords. All right, you have the House of Commons, which says, "Hey, we want to represent the people." They say that, but they really have power to represent themselves because they still funded and sponsored the slave movement, right, and colonial powers to support slavery, right? So the whole thing was an illusion, right, of freedom, an illusion of justice, illusion of democracy. You look at America, you have the Democratic and Republican Party. Most Republicans are from the ruling class, a commonwealth amongst the ruling class. Most Republicans are that. They're tied in to what? The monarch. Same thing with the Democrats. Those at the top, these conservative Republicans, conservative Democrats, if I can use that term, they're tied in to the monarch. Is that right? All of them are tied in. Jeff Bezos is not tied in to the monarch, so he makes a comment toward the queen, right? After a black person makes a comment toward the queen, he makes a comment toward the queen. Why? He's fighting for power, right? The same power that the total ruling class has, the monarch class has. He made his money off the backs of the people. He doesn't care about black people. Proof of which, one of the African sisters was fussing with him and calling him a hypocrite, right? For you putting down the queen, but you're oppressing us too. It was just on Twitter just a few days ago, right? I just caution you to wake up and see what's going on around you, brothers and sisters. Jeff Bezos don't care anything about black people. As a matter of fact, if you work on Amazon, he's ripping you off, right? Working you like a what? Slave. You're a leader in his what? Labor market. Brothers and sisters, wake up. You have to know who he has in charge of you. Somebody that looks like us. What do? We are tougher on you than the white man is. Isn't that right? So what I want, and that's what I want to tell you. The subsequent use of the Illuminati has been used and referring to various organizations, brothers and sisters, which have alleged to be a continuation of the original Bavarian Illuminati, right? So you've got pacifists that are concerned with being associated so they can have power. Of what? The white ruling class. Black people can't become a part of the Illuminati. You're fooling yourself if you think you can, right? You're fooling yourself. And for those that says, well, if it exists and it belongs to the white man, you're still fooling yourself to believe that you could become part of that ruling class. You never do it. You never do it. You may be a wealthy black person, but you're still a pawn in the system of democracy created by the white man to oppress black people. And you could oppress black people by funding, if you're wealthy and black, the system of democracy, but you'll never be a part of the ruling class. It just can't happen. You have to be white, you have to be Anglo, you have to be Saxon, you have to be Protestant. And Barack Obama, for all intents and purposes, brothers and sisters, appealed to white people, right? He has come from Anglo parents. He was Saxon and he was Protestant believer. So for all people that believe that Barack Obama was an actual benefit for black people, he was not. He did everything for everybody except black people because he's never accepted himself as common black folk, and he isn't common black folk. Now, you talk about Michelle Obama, that's something totally different. But she herself still is a pawn in the game of the Illuminati as it relates to democracy. I just want to tell you that. And we're going to talk about this some more. I don't want to overwhelm you, brothers and sisters, but these organizations have been accused of conspiring to control world affairs by masterminding and planning events. Agents in the government, agents in corporation, to gain political power. Isn't that right? Right. And what do we see? We see it happening all around us. Influence to establish a new world order. Isn't that right? What is that new world order? Right? The same symbol that you see for the new world order is the same symbol that you see on the back of a dollar. All you got to do, you see the pyramid, right? You see the Annuit Conceptus. You see the pyramid on the back of the dollar. It's the same organization, the same symbol for the New World Order. Very same symbol, right? Right? And you have to understand this. It's not a hypothesis, right? It's not a hypothesis about a totalitarianism or totalitarian government. That's no hypothesis. We are slaves in America. That's dictatorship. That's totalitarianism. That's dictatorship. Central to some of the more widely known and elaborate conspiracy theories is this Illuminati. And the Illuminati is lurking in the shadows, brothers and sisters, pulling the strings for all the levels of power, pulling the string because they're constantly fighting with these monarchs that are ruling class, right? And they themselves come from these monarchs, but they want power for themselves. You have to understand that. They'll say that they're from humble means. Say that they're from humble means. When you do the background, you'll find out that many of them are attached, legitimately or illegitimate, to the ruling global white power structure. Even the blacks that are with the lineage and bloodline of Thomas Jefferson, you'll find out that they also would do anything to support that system. It should be a shame and a travesty to have a man's blood in you because he raped you. It should be a shame and a travesty to have his bloodline in you and he's raped you. But they're happy to have Thomas Jefferson bloodline in them. They're happy to worship the system, right? Because it's the system that benefit them as slaves of the system, house slaves. Greetings, brothers and sisters. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to greet you. I normally greet you, and I certainly want to do that now, be able to greet you. We have our brother, M is here. Peace and greetings, MDC. Peace and greetings to you, brother. We have peace and greetings to Sister Yafa Israel. Peace and greetings to you. Peace and greetings, Goddess Nanu, my heart. Peace and greetings, sister. Love you so much. You know that. I said before, the brothers and sisters don't mean to make you blush. Salam alaikum. And anyone that I may have missed. We got some brothers, we got some sisters that are saying something. The sister Yafa Yisrael, the 12 dukes, the sons of Esau, who run the world as quoted in the scriptures. Sister, that's right. That's right. And we have to be wise. We've got to be wise today. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to come on to talk about this. It's not my normal hours, brothers and sisters, but I had to come on and talk about it because something is happening right before our eyes, and we have to be wise to it. The queen has just died. This is not something to be taken lightly by black people. You should be rejoicing and organizing amongst yourselves. We should be organizing amongst ourselves levels of power, right? Levels of power for our own economic situation, our own spiritual situation, brothers and sisters, our own educational situation, right? We should have a FUBU mentality, for us, by us, and those organizations that are out there that are black, we should be increasing them every day. Don't forget to thumbs up, like, and subscribe, brothers and sisters, please. We can certainly use the participation. Thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and we certainly need your support for our organization. We need you to buy a book. If you look at the very top, you can support us by buying a book. I can put my email in there. We're selling the books through PDF, and you can certainly get a book. We want you to get a book, and we want you to certainly donate to our Cash App, which is Liberation Group, and I've put that in there as well. I've certainly put that in there as well. I want to put down my email to you so that you'll be able to have that information. Brothers and sisters, don't you find it strange that we lose Sister Ava Muhammad, a sister that was fighting for black nationalism and had already been predicting these things? She's talking about the death of the powers to be. Dr. Ava Muhammad, a friend of mine, a Muslim, a fellow Muslima, and a leading mind of black sisters and brothers. I don't care if you're Christian, Jewish, or otherwise. This sister was speaking truth to power and would literally put her life on the line. And that's what happened. She put her very life on the line, teaching these facts that we need to build up our own organizations, religiously, socially, educationally, economically, and otherwise. Go to our own towns. Go to our own cities that were established by black people and build them up. Brothers and sisters, it's time for it. Those in the ruling class now are dying out. They're dying out. Certainly, Sister Money Mama, we appreciate you. And you send me that email to my email, and I'll have that out to you. Certainly have that out to you, and we'll send you. You can look on the link to see what kind of books that are there and which ones do you want. Sister Money Mama said, I've been listening to all of your videos. Years ago, I shared something you posted on Facebook, but I just noticed you on YouTube last month. Sister, I've been here, and we've been building up, myself and Goddess Nanu, Sister Joanna X, who Allah has blessed me with, been building up and still putting out the knowledge. She and I both, on her channel and mine, have been putting out knowledge, and she's certainly blessed my channel with her presence to put out knowledge. And also on Sundays, we're with Ital Ayman, who's the black journalist, nationalist, who has a great show. He puts out stuff there. So I would tell you to just tune in, and we'll definitely give the information for our sister, ourselves, because we're all on there to talk about it. Also, the sister has a new CD out, rather a new single out, and I hope that she'll be able to place a link in the message box so you all be able to hear that and other products that she have from her site. But we're certainly pushing, and it's hard to push, brothers and sisters. This is why we need your support. We need it today. I need your support directly to try to keep our organization up that help serve the community. We help give free mental health to the community. We help the community. It's a black organization. It's not white. We will feed whoever we can feed. We transport them to the other organization, black organization that we're working with to help our people. But we need support amongst black people. We have to have support amongst black people, But brothers and sisters, certainly, sister, I understand that. And I'll definitely be looking for that email. Brothers and sisters, we have to understand that if we don't build up our organizations, we don't build up the things that we have now, we won't have a foundation to make them stronger. When you look at Walmart, when we're talking about the Illuminati, we're talking about organizations within the Illuminati. I'm trying to get you to understand that every white organization is supporting the system of the Illuminati. If they're white, whatever they're doing is for white people and by white people. You can take the laziest, stickiest, lowliest, dirty white. Understand this. And he is more important than the wealthiest black. The wealthiest black. You let Jay-Z, right? And he's achieved, right? Monetary achievement through demonic means. I'll say that. And I know what I'm saying when I say that. So I'll say it. And we can debate on that later. But I'll say this. You can take Jay-Z and he can kill a poor white. He can kill a poor white. It don't even have to be a white of any significance. And they will literally turn him upside down. They'll turn his world upside down. Then after that, when they finish doing that, right, if he don't take his own life, they'll take his life too. You have to understand that. You look at Beyonce. Beyonce is not wealthy and suggested because she's only a great singer, because she's a great singer and a great performer. But the other part is she exploits black people. She exploits black women. At her age now, in the entertainment industry, she still has to do whatever Sony Records and whatever the massive producers of the entertainment world tell her to do, right, in order to survive. With all the money that she has, with all the wealth that she has, she still has to follow it. The minute you see her get a conscience and stand up for something, right, just like she put out that song that had a message in it, the last song that she had, right, it had a message. Then the white man started coming against her, right, because she done before Super Bowl. Go back to the Super Bowl. You listen to that. What happened? She stood up and was talking about black power. Anytime any black person that the white man has put in front of you against their will or on their watch, when that person get a conscience and start working against the white system, he becomes an enemy of the system. You have to understand that. Peace and greetings to scientists. Assalamu alaikum. And you and I have to be wise. We have to understand that our way of fighting back is black men, black women producing black children. What happens when the black man and the black woman get together? What happens when they're loyal to one another? What happens when they're faithful to one another? You stop illegitimacy. You produce children that have a direction. You produce children that have some endurance. This is why the white man don't want the black man and black woman together. You're already 4/5 of the population today. Already 4/5 of the population. If you add it in the 6 corners, you're already 5/6 of the population of the global planet. And you have to understand that. But the minute that the white man talks about abortion, the black man should be talking about procreation. Because abortion was created against you and I. The minute they talk about same-sex marriage, the black man should have been talking about heterosexuality. Should have been talking about the marriage between men and women. Because that works in our favor. And same-sex marriage works against us. Anything that the white man is teaching in front of you, right, it should give you the common sense and should give you the spiritual intellectualization to begin to find out how that's working against you. The white man will never talk about or put forth anything in front of you that's going to be for you. He'll never do it. And you have to understand that this is something that he will never do. And if you want to build up the black race, you've got to start thinking black. You got to start acting black. You got to start spending black. And you got to start investing black. It's the only way, brothers and sisters, that you and I, as black people, are going to have any part. I tried to do this show, and I want you to go back and look. Those of you that tune in to me, I've been trying to talk about the Illuminati for the last 2 weeks. Anytime that in the last 2 days, right, I've tried to do the show 3 times, and they've chopped it off. Because they don't want you to know the truth. They don't want you to know the truth. Peace and greetings, MDC. And my humble apologies, sister. My humble apologies. Salam alaikum, Muslima. Salam alaikum. And so, when you talk about something involving black people, see, the world doesn't want you to do it. Even YouTube is owned by that search engine. There were shows that I've done that they've literally chopped the shows off. I mean, the minute that I finished it, they chopped it off. Put a strike against me because they said that I said something that violates. Right? They let you know that the man is watching everything you do. Don't you know that? That he's watching everything that you do? YouTube and Facebook is nothing more than cameras in his living room to watch you and I. I know it. I know it. I already know it. But I'm still going to use it as an opportunity to talk and teach my people. I'm still going to use it. But all you got to know is that he's looking at you, right? The cameras is so he can see us. Has nothing to do with YouTube. What you can do on YouTube as a business is good, but it's a distraction for us to not know that the man is watching us in real time. And if we say anything in real time that he deem a threat, then he coming to get you. See, you got to know that. Facebook is the same way. Same way. Same way. I've been in Facebook jail and I've been in YouTube jail. Yeah, it's the same kind of game and operation going. Same thing, brothers and sisters. And it's going to be the same thing. But you and I, our objective for using the tools that God has blessed us with. You can say Allah, you can say God, you can say Jesus Christ, you can say whatever you want. Whatever your religious belief is, say whatever you want, because I have enough sense to know that religion is not going to save us, because that alone was created. But when you say spirituality, I can bear witness that there's only one God, and he's had many messengers, and Muhammad is his messenger too, brothers and sisters. And so you and I have to be in a mindset to come together. That's the purpose of this channel, that we be in the mindset of coming together and have intellectual knowledge and study put before us so that we can have some understanding. The comment section, I ask that you would get involved. Even if there's something I say that not enough information is expressed on it, then brothers and sisters, I encourage you to say comments to help us along. We're doing this together. And brothers and sisters, understand this. Even if you don't agree, still put it down in the comment section, because at least that shows that you're listening. You see what I'm saying? So we have to work together. We have to work together. And even many times as we are fighting, right, the same forces, many times we won't agree. If we're talking about liberation, we may not agree. But the encouraging thing is the fact that we have the same objective, right? You're not against me and I'm not against you. We're on the same side. Both of us want freedom. Both of us want liberation. Both of us want democracy. Now, it would be foolish for me to say, and a shame for me to say, that every black person wants democracy. That's not true. You have a black boule system, right, that has the white man's blood in them, have the white man's thinking in them, and many of them will support, brothers and sisters, this system. They will sell out to buy in to this system. They'll do it. They'll do it, right? To be able to have a little bread, they'll do it, right? To be able to get a little money, a little status, they'll do it. And what I want you to know is, all you got to do is point them out. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to kill them or anything like that, because I don't believe in that. I believe black life should be preserved. But all you need to do is point them out. Point them out so the other black brothers and sisters can see them. Now, I say this because I want you to understand it. Just fully understand what I'm saying before you attack it. O'Malley-Yeshitela has been around how many years? 80-something years. As a nationalist, he's been around how many years? Been around 50 to 60 years. What has he done? Nothing. Nothing at all. What threat does he pose to America? No threat. When you see his organization, he's got whites in his organization. He's more of a threat to us than he's a threat to O'Malley-Yeshitela. Our sister says, it still doesn't seem right with me what happened to Dr. Ava Muhammad. It's true, sister. And I told you before, and that's why I believe it. I believe that she was poisoned. I believe that because her last speech, if you look at her last speech where she calls Thomas Jefferson a pedophile, right? This is her very, very last speech. You'll see that after she leaves the meeting that Thursday night, and we're all viewing it because all of her stuff was telecast. And I enjoyed watching the sister. I had a chance to watch her in person and work with her in person in the past. We taught black nationalism, traded ideas on black nationalism. This is a fact. Dr. Khalid Muhammad trained me in nationalism, who was a great friend and admirer of Dr. Ava Muhammad, and is how I met her. She was very powerful in the Muslim movement, a Muslima in the Muslim movement. She taught black nationalism. And what I want you to understand is that the Nation of Islam in the 1980s was being prepared to make a mainstream movement under Louis Farrakhan, because Silas Muhammad teaches the philosophy of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But if you look at Minister Farrakhan, right, and I say this in all respect and love, because you have to love black people, irregardless. If you look at Farrakhan, he's made a movement into the mainstream to be acceptable. He couldn't do it with a Dr. Khalid Muhammad, who was a black nationalist, who was a fierce fighter for black nationalism. They had to get Khalid Muhammad away. And if you go back to see some of the earlier things that I've worked with Steve Coakley and things, we did these things before there was even any such thing as YouTube. That we were putting it on VHS tapes and taping those things then. You'll see that we're saying the same thing now, that the Nation of Islam is about to make another mainstream movement, and they couldn't do it with a Dr. Ava Muhammad, who was talking black nationalism, who was talking about coming out of the black organizations, coming out of the white organization and organizing our black cities for us, organizing black towns for us, turning these towns into black states for us as black people, building up our black businesses, building up black grocery stores, car lots, lending institutions, banks, all of these things for black people. And you got to understand this, that the message to the black man is for black people. This is the teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the sister kept with these teachings. I can't say that Farrakhan has kept with these teachings, which is suspect. Anytime you're teaching Dianetics, brothers and sisters, you're teaching Dianetics, a white teaching that you're teaching. This is from the white man, and you're teaching this to Muslims. You not only that, you purchase you purchase the patent of Dianetics to be able to teach it. This is, again, a teaching of the white man could only work against black people. Whatever he teaches can only work against us. And this was the first caution. The second caution was that the sister's teaching black nationalism on the level that Dr. Khalid was teaching it, and she's teaching it among black women. You and I know that in the Christian movement as well as the Muslim movement, without our black women, the movement would be dead. I say again, if you have a movement that doesn't involve the black woman and the black child, that is a dead movement. And by moving that sister out, you can no longer reach effectively black men, or rather black women and black children, right, to put them on the course and the evolution of black nationalism as it relates as owners. And we have to understand that the white man, whatever black leader he has in front of you, that's been around for the last 50 to 80 years, is no threat to the white establishment. They complement the white establishment. Proof of which, if you look at the Nation of Islam as it relates to Minister Louis Farrakhan, I counted with the Illuminati movement, brothers and sisters. I'll tell you why. The organization may not be Illuminati, but the leader support the Illuminati movement, because you got white, so-called white Mexicans coming in the Nation of Islam. Brother Abraham is one of those examples. Then they have another brother Abraham that's supposed to be a white red man, right? He's supposed to be a white Native American. There's no such thing as a white Native American. There's no such thing as a red Native American. There's such thing as a black reddish Native American, and there's such thing as a black brown man. But there's no such thing as a white red man or a white brown man. That doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. And we have to be wise to it. So they look like white men. We have to call them what they are. And these whites have been allowed to come as representation of the black brown man. This white red man has been able to come to the Nation of Islam as representation of the black red man into the Nation of Islam. And with nothing but integration of white people in the black movement. And you have to know that. Anytime you look at Amali Yeshitela, right? The Uhuru movement. You look at Amali Yeshitela, who do you have around him? He's got white people trying to act like revolutionaries. White people in the movement. How can you fight the white man when you got the white man in the movement with you? You can't do it. And Sister Ava talked black nationalism, that we want to get into towns where us as black people, I don't want to live with white people. And if you see her last two speeches, you can plainly see this, and you have to be wise, brothers and sisters. You have to be wise, and you have to see the message that is going out. You have to see the message that is going out. You have to know when the relationship is in trouble. All you have to do is listen to the woman, and you'll find out that the relationship is in trouble with any woman or any man. If you want to find out how that relationship is going, all you got to do is look at the black woman, and she'll, in any time, tell you where the relationship is going and how it's going, right? And what it's going to be, right? And so if you get a black man, see, a black woman can respect the black man if he stay on point. She may not even agree with him, but she can respect him if he stays on point. But brothers and sisters, the only way that she'll begin to disrespect him is that he get off point. And you'll see it. And in her heart, she doesn't mean to disrespect the black man when he get off point, because if he listened to her, she can keep him on point, right? The very foundation for which she met him, she can keep him on that point. But when he begins to deviate from it, then even his own woman can't respect him. It's the same way in religion. It's the same way in any relationship that the black man is in. And you have to know that. The scientist says on August the 26th was the beginning of a major moon phase. That's true, brother. And I want to say that Sister Joanna pointed that out. Sister Joanna X, Goddess Nenu, did point that out about the full moon. And we have to pay attention to these exoteric signs. Another brother, Ital Ayman, pointed out he's an exoteric, Rastafarian, a Magi. In our time, it also pointed the very thing out. And we have to understand that God is with us in our liberation. Only God can give us liberation. Only God. And we talk about the Boule movement, brother. We talk about the Boule movement. So, you know, and all you have to do is look at it. All you have to do is look at it. And once you look at what's going on, then you can pinpoint. See, my job is to give you the word, brothers and sisters, is to give you the teaching, the true teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and what to be concerned about. The true teachings of black nationalism, the true teaching of the black Christian nationalism. That's right, the black Christian nationalism too. I got to give you the true teachings. And the minute that you begin to see the truth, you'll begin to know the difference between a lie and the truth. You'll begin to know it. And she said, our sister says, MDC says, she certainly does, and they worship her. That's the sad part. That's true. That's true. We've got to be wise. We've got to be steadfast. We got to be unmovable. That's what we have to be. In our faith, in our knowledge, in our conviction as black people. That's what we have to do, brothers and sisters. If you don't do it, we're doomed. If you don't do it, we're doomed. We have to understand that. We have to understand what the true relationship, our true relationship is with this American white man. We have to understand that. A lot of us don't know it. A lot of us don't know it. We have to understand what our true relationship is with this white man. What is the true relationship? What is it? What have you and I, brothers and sisters, you and I, what relationship have we had with this white man coming in this country? We have to understand that, and we'll continue to talk about it. We'll continue to talk about it because it's important. These things are important, and we're fighting for our very lives. I want you to understand that. We are fighting for our very lives. That's what you and I do. We're fighting. We're fighting for our lives. We're fighting to save our lives. And you won't save your life by giving in to that white man. I mean, how long can you suffer after you suffered 400 years of direct oppression in this country, 600 years of direct oppression with America and England? You suffered 3,000 years as it relates to the Greek Orthodox Church, right, and the Roman Orthodox Church. You suffered again in the Platonic War. Every time the man came to you, he was bringing you down, certainly bringing you down. He fears. Farrakhan not being able to control the black public for what he's sold out to buy in for. Farrakhan, I say again, brothers and sisters, not to anger anyone, because I wouldn't do that. He is not a threat to the establishment. Never been a threat to the establishment. How do we know Farrakhan? I'll say this, and I look forward to seeing you at 9 o'clock tonight. I want to say this. Please support us, brothers and sisters, please. I want to say this, though, concerning Farrakhan. The only way that we know Farrakhan is that he was involved in the assassination of Minister Malcolm X. On whatever level, he was involved. He was at the Newark Mosque. He wasn't at Mosque number 11. He was at the Newark Mosque, and at that time, he also came to Mosque number 7. So this is New Jersey and also New York. And he was involved. Here's the man that spoke the words to keep the climate incendiary against Minister Malcolm. Such a man as Malcolm is worthy of death. And brothers and sisters, this spirit of assassination went out amongst black Muslims. But the government has already had people that were put in the Muslim movement to not just destroy Minister Malcolm, but to destroy the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Minister Malcolm was a son of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Keep that in mind. And they have been killing true followers and discrediting true leaders of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. All of those that even in their trek were forced out of the nation by agents and informants, and they were being welcomed back in. But before they could come back in, brothers and sisters, they were assassinated. And I just want to tell you this, that any real leader, true leaders, are catching hell. Sister Joanna knows. Goddess Nanu knows we catch hell for preaching the truth. For preaching the truth. And I'm no Malcolm X, brothers and sisters. I'm no major leader. You know, and I'm just trying to appeal to black people. Even in politics, get your own group. The only difference between me and other black people are those that have the mentality that I have, right, such as yourself, is that we know that we're not Democrats, we're not Republican, we're not even Americans, and we got sense enough to know it. I said you're not Democrats, Republicans, or Americans, and you should have sense enough to know it. That we're going to have to fight for our own freedom, brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters, we come to the end of this. We went a bit long. I hope to see you again tonight at 9 o'clock. If I didn't say it in the beginning, I'll say it now. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum. And that means peace be unto you in the Arabic tongue, the true African language, brothers and sisters. So I say peace and greetings unto you. Assalamu alaikum.